All right, boys and girls, we are writing our 5-paragraph essay for our Unit 3 end of unit writing assessment. I don't want to jinx us, excuse me, I don't want to jinx us, but this could potentially be our last big writing assignment for 6th grade for English. We do have one for the Wax Museum, but this might be our last one for English. I'm not sure yet, haven't decided. But here we go. So it's our last big one. It is a 5-paragraph essay. We went over the prompt yesterday, so here we go. We are going to start with our introduction paragraph. It needs to be 5 sentences long. So let's get started. You need to have your introduction graphic organizer in front of you. I'm going to walk step by step how to do it. I'm going to share my screen. What I would do, you have 2 options. You can watch the video as usual, or you can pause it when I tell you to pause. Step by step. Here we go. All right, so let's share my screen. All right, guys, so you guys have your graphic organizer just like I do in front of it. The first thing you need to do, besides putting your name on your paper, is we need to do our hook. So remember, our hook is one sentence that catches your reader's attention. Our prompt is about how these 3 characters, remember, we're not choosing our characters. We told you the characters. You are choosing, or you are writing about Percy Jackson, Hatshepsut, and Margaret Bourke White. How these 3 characters followed or did what they did without having instructions. Remember, Percy Jackson, he didn't really know what was going on in his life, but he just kept moving on with his life. Hatshepsut ruled Egypt was given a handbook. She was not told how to be a pharaoh. And Margaret Bourke White, she ran into gunfire and just went into a steel mill. She didn't know exactly what she was doing. She just did it on a whim. Remember, all 3 of these people were given no instructions. So we need to come up with a hook, something that's going to grab the reader's attention. I personally always love a good quote. So I am going to go on Google. You can always do a fact as well. I'm going to do a quote about no instructions. All right, let's just see. Images? Sure. Let's see. You have come to the shore. There are no instructions. Okay, that's all the same quote. Absolutely. Absolutely, they're all the same quote. Okay. Cool. You can also do a quote by Percy Jackson, Hatshepsut, or Margaret Bourke White, which is what Miss Rafferty's going to do. A quote from Percy Jackson. I also can't spell Percy Jackson. Here we go. Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. Perfect. That's exactly what I'm going to type in. So remember, when you do a quote, you are going to write exactly what the quote says. Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. Make sure you also have your quotations because, again, it is not your quote. You are taking it from somebody else. Make sure you also have your ending punctuation. When we get to our background information, you have 2 options of what you can do here for your background information. You could do 3 sentences about the topic. So think about what these 3 people have in common. I'm going to be honest here. I think that's probably the hardest one. Or you could write 1 sentence about each of the different characters. You write 1 sentence about Percy Jackson, write 1 sentence about Hatshepsut, and 1 sentence about Margaret Bourke White. I honestly think that's going to be your best bet, and that's going to be the easiest one for you to do. Remember, in your introduction, you have to pretend that Miss Mendoza, Mr. Garcia, Mr. DeLuna, and myself do not know anything about the characters. We don't know anything about Percy Jackson, we know nothing about Hatshepsut, and we know nothing about Margaret Bourke White. I'm going to go that route only because, like I said, that's probably the easiest. This part right here, finding what these 3 people have in common, I mean, it is also very easy. They all moved on in their lives without having instructions. They all overcame their barriers. They all overcame their fears. You can do that as well. I just honestly think this would be the easiest route to go. This essay is due next week. We leave for spring break April 11th. That's when this essay is due. If you don't turn it in, that is a 2.5. That is an F. There is no office hours for you to make this up. So I'm also trying to tell you, go the easier route for this essay because we are on timeline. When we come back, we are doing test prep and we are going right into state testing. So please listen to my directions. I would go this route. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to write one sentence about Percy Jackson, one sentence about Hatshepsut, and one sentence about Margaret Bourke Bork White. Here we go. Percy Jackson is a young boy who is a demigod. Yeah, demigod. Because his father is the Greek god Poseidon. Mr. Rafferty can never spell Poseidon correctly. Yeah, see. Who is the god of the sea. And his mother is a human. Cool. I'm also just going to enter only because, like, when Miss Rafferty gives feedback, I want her to be able to see I wrote 3 sentences. Also notice I didn't write just like 4 words on my sentence. We're at the end of our 6th grade year, which means we need some meat to these sentences. Now we're writing about Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut was the first female pharaoh. I'm also going to start using some Egypt vocabulary in my background information. Was the first female pharaoh of ancient Egypt. She had to dress as a man to be taken seriously by the people of Egypt. In some instances, she had to wear, my God, I can't spell, a wooden beard. Remember, we're also just getting our ideas out there. Next week we will be editing, so I know that she didn't wear a wooden beard. I know that there is a vocabulary word that is what that is supposed to be called. I'm going to be looking that up later. All right, and my last sentence is about Margaret Bork White. Margaret Bork White was the first female war correspondent during World War II. Okay, it's also spelled wrong. She took famous photos when the concentration camps were liberated and the soldiers found the Jews at the camps. Cool. Now we go to the thesis. This is the meat of our essay. This is also going to probably be the hardest sentence you will write in this essay, or this paragraph. So I already gave you the majority of your thesis. You need to write Percy Jackson, Hatshepsut, and Margaret Bork White all blank, blank, and blank when there were no clear guidelines to help them. I'm also going to color code for you. So this first blank, I would come up with an adjective or think of something that Percy Jackson did when there were no clear instructions. What was something that Percy Jackson did when he was being stalked at the playground? That's your first blank. The second blank needs to go with Hatshepsut. What did Hatshepsut do? Or how did Hatshepsut overcome being Pharaoh? Like, no one said, hey, Hatshepsut, when you're the queen, here's a book. Here's how to be the queen. Here's how to be the king. How did she figure out how to be the king of Egypt? Your third blank is going to go with Margaret Bork White, because when you're writing 3 paragraphs, you need 3 body paragraphs. Your first body paragraph is going to be about Percy Jackson. Your second body paragraph is going to be about Hatshepsut, and your third body paragraph is going to be about Margaret Bork White. So your first blank, what is something Percy Jackson did to overcome, or to when there were no clear instructions? What did Hatshepsut do when there were no clear instructions? What did Margaret Bork White do when there were no clear instructions? So I'm going to give you my thesis. No, you may not copy, but this is probably going to be the hardest part. So Percy Jackson demonstrated courage. Hatshepsut, and you can think of something that all 3 of them did. They all did this as well. Had determination. And Margaret Bork White had a desire to challenge norms, which all of them also did as well. So my thesis is Percy Jackson, Hatshepsut, and Margaret Bourke-White all demonstrate courage, determination, and a desire to challenge norms when there are no clear guidelines to help them. So you want to think of something that all three of them did, but also you need to think of something that each individual did because you need to cite evidence to support that. So here's my introduction. Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. Percy Jackson is a young boy who is a demigod because his father is the Greek god Poseidon, who is the god of the sea, and his mother is a human. Hatshepsut was the first female pharaoh of ancient Egypt. She had to dress as a man to be taken seriously by the people of Egypt. In some instances, she had to wear a wooden beard. Margaret Bourke-White was the first female war correspondent during World War II. She took famous photos when the concentration camps were liberated and the soldiers found the Jews in the camps. Percy Jackson, Hatshepsut, and Margaret Bourke-White all demonstrate courage, determination, and a desire to challenge norms when there are no clear guidelines to help them. Honestly, background information hook, you got this. If you need help on your thesis, please raise your hand. Good luck!